Hey everybody, Ashley Page here. Thank you for joining us on our educational vlog today. As always, we're delighted that you're with us. And as the name suggests, with the educational vlog, we always try to cover some topics that are helpful to you in understanding markets that maybe are not in the mainstream. So we have one of those for you today. Does the U.S. Federal Reserve help other countries? And the answer to that is yes. The bottom line of it is that the Federal Reserve, of course, is our large and robust arm of controlling monetary policy in the United States. So when you're controlling financial markets, you have two major aspects of that. The monetary policy that the Federal Reserve does and the fiscal policy, that's Congress, the spending on the unemployment. What you try to do is coordinate that as much as you can to the benefit of the economy. The Federal Reserve in the United States is rare in that it controls two key points. One is interest rate and the other is unemployment. Many central banks around the world don't do both. We have an unusual Federal Reserve in that they do both. Many central banks around the world do one or the other, but not both. But the question we pose to you is, does our Fed help international markets? And here's the way that they do. They use a device called a U.S. swap line of credit. And what that is that our Federal Reserve has the ability to do short-term credit extensions, almost like an interest-only bridge loan, to other central banks around the world. It's not much risk to the Fed because the Fed keeps those programs in place only with about the top 14 economies and central banks of the world. For example, Bank of India, Bank of England, the European Central Bank, Central Bank of Australia, Central Bank of Israel. That list of 14 are for central banks around the world where the underlying economy is strong and their central bank is also strong. The Federal Reserve does not use that swap line of credit to help another central bank that much because they don't want to be very distortive of another economy or what's going on in the international market. However, as we saw in 2008 and also in the pandemic, it is a very valuable tool that the Federal Reserve can use to help get more liquidity into the international market. So the first time we ever saw that used was back in 2008 to the tune of about 400 to 500 billion. Since March of this year, the Federal Reserve has put in place $500 billion with a T of U.S. swap lines of credits in place for these other banks that they can draw on if they need to. So that's another good example, and you've seen that on the educational vlog, of one reason we're doing a lot better in terms of the global economy in the pandemic with the monetary push that we did in 2008. We simply learned from 2008 and we're applying it now. The largest banks that we interact with in these U.S. swap lines of credit to help other central banks, the Bank of Japan is the largest. The second largest would be the European Central Bank, the nations combined in Europe. The third largest is the Bank of England, and the fourth largest would be the Central Bank in South Korea. So those are our top four, but we've got a list of about 14. Federal Reserve Chairman Powell has agreed to keep these U.S. swap lines in place with other central banks around the world until March of 2021. So a major reason a central bank exists to get money into the system, the best analogy we can give you is like trying to drive your car without oil in the car. The major thing central banks do around the world is create liquidity in the system, much like oiling the car to help it run. So the Federal Reserve helps not only our liquidity, but from time to time in a crisis, has got a very good structure where they can help other central banks around the world as they are doing now. As a matter of fact, I'll close by saying the market research director of the Bank of England says that this mechanism that the Federal Reserve has in the United States is the most powerful Federal Reserve support level mechanism. It's the most powerful one that most people don't know of. So we wanted to let you know when you hear that U.S. swap lines of credit for Federal Reserve, you'll now know what that means. It's interest only temporary grants of credit to other central banks to keep them growing and more stable. So if you have any questions about this, we love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to us in any social media platform. Feel free to call any one of us about extra questions about that. Thanks, and we hope you have a great rest of the week.